What's up? I'm Justin. Welcome to Don't Disappoint Your Parents. I don't really have anything funny to say this week, so let's get cooking. Today we're going to make some Cantonese crispy pork belly, one of my favorite appetizers. We're going to start by making some 5-spice powder, because mine just ran out. Now, 5-spice is a very common ingredient in Chinese cooking, but there isn't really one agreed upon recipe for the 5 spices, so this is just my favorite version from my own experimentation. In a pan, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of szchuan peppercorns, 3 tablespoons of star anise pods, 1 tablespoon of fennel seeds, 1 tablespoon of cloves, and 2 small sticks of Chinese cinnamon. Toast these spices together over low heat until they are very fragrant. Pour into a spice grinder and grind until you get a fine powder. Save this stuff in an airtight container because it's going to be way better than anything you find in the store. Next, we're going to make a marinade for our pork belly. In a medium bowl, add 2 tablespoons of fu, a fermented bean curd which has a great funky flavor, 1 generous teaspoon of our 5-spice powder, a small pinch of salt, and 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. Give the marinade a good stir until well combined. Bring out your pork belly. Now, the secret to a crispy pork belly is to get the skin as dry as possible, so we're going to use a paper towel to dry out the pork. I'm using a 2-inch thick cut. What you really want to be looking for is a piece with even layers of fat and meat. Lightly brush the marinade onto the pork meat. Do not put any marinade on the skin. We're trying to keep it as dry as possible. Next, brush a loaf pan, or any large enough container, down with the marinade. Wipe off any marinade on the pork skin one last time before transferring it to the pan. Store the pork belly in the fridge uncovered overnight so that the meat has enough time to be marinated and the skin dries sufficiently. The next day, we're going to bring out the pork belly while we preheat an oven to 375 degrees. Wrap the pork belly in foil, forming a 1-inch tall wall over the meat. Next, we're going to add an even layer of coarse salt over the top of the belly. Try not to get any salt on the meat itself. This salt isn't really for flavoring, it actually draws out the moisture in the pork to keep it crispy. Put the pork in the oven and roast for 25 minutes. After the 25 minutes, we're going to take out the pork, raise the oven temperature to 450 degrees, and remove the salt, which should have formed into a crust. Brush the salt off like you're an archaeologist uncovering buried treasure, because pork belly is basically treasure, and put the pork back into the oven to roast for another 15 minutes. During which time we're going to make some Chinese spicy mustard. Unlike Western mustards, which are more acidic from vinegar, Chinese mustard has that sinus-clearing spice similar to wasabi. In a small bowl, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of ground mustard, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of white pepper. Mix this together before adding 1.5 teaspoons of hot water and about 1/2 teaspoon of olive oil. Mix again and set aside to steep for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we're going to add about another 1/2 teaspoon of hot water and a 1/4 teaspoon of white vinegar. Once the pork is done, take it out of the oven and let it rest on a cutting board for 10 minutes. Take a moment to observe the beauty that you have just created. The golden brown crispy skin, the smell of spices, the layers of fat intertwined with meat. After resting, slice the pork into small bite-sized pieces and exclaim at the skin's crispiness. As you probably heard, I was very excited. Now, this pork is amazing. The meat is tender and juicy with that distinct fragrance of 5-spice from the marinade. Just look at the puffed gold and the distinct layers of meat and fat. It's really delicious. But we all know whose opinion really matters here. Now, please welcome my sister, Jamie. Jamie, here we have a crispy pork belly with a homemade spicy, there are chopsticks there for a reason.
Oh, sorry.
With the spicy Chinese mustard.
Mmm.
Be careful, it's pretty spicy.
Looks pretty good.
Oh, that's a lot.
This too much?
I think it might be too much.
I should really good. Oh, it's really spicy.
It's one of those nasally spices.
It's quite good. The skin is really crispy, which is awesome. Very fatty. You can really taste the layers, and it's a really good ratio that you have there. Yeah, I'm quite impressed. I love shao. It's something that I would always get with my friends at like a big dim sum brunch, so very cool.
You're welcome. Now you can get it with me.
Oh,
Homemade.
who needs friends when you have family?
I miss my friend.